Look, one of the reasons the government's in a world of economic pain at the moment is because it can't seem to make anything better. The government has admitted the NDIS, the so-called National Disability Insurance Scheme, it's not an insurance scheme, they've admitted it's out of control, with numbers way beyond forecasts and costs skyrocketing. But given that this is Labor's main signature since Medicare, no one has the courage in Labor to rein it in, or even to admit there are fundamental problems with the scheme. Now, the aim when it was created was to give people with lifelong, life-changing disabilities the services needed to live normally. But too many people are covered and too many services are on offer. Not all of them as well have lifelong, seriously life-changing disabilities. And not all of them really need so many of the suite of taxpayer-funded activities, such as carers taking them out on the taxpayer to the movies. Because NDIS payments are basically uncapped, so not limited like most other government payments, everyone with a disability wants to be on the scheme, and because everyone wants to be on it, it costs a hell of a lot more. Participation is now 600,000, heading towards 1 million, not the 460,000 forecast. Costs are now over 40 billion a year, headed north to 100 billion, not the 25 billion originally forecast. Now, to put that into perspective, that's more than the total cost of Medicare, which services all 25 million Australians, not just the 600,000 like the NDIS. With the NDIS set to cost more than our entire defence budget in the near future, Labor ministers say they'll just limit spending growth to just 8% a year. But with the latest revelation that 12% of all Australian boys aged between 5 and 7, mostly for autism or developmental delay, are on the NDIS, 5% of our girls too at the same age, there's not the slightest sign of any of the needed changes to bring this about. The Minister, Bill Shorten, says there should be alternatives to the NDIS for kids with autism. Now, fat chance of the state stepping up and doing this, and even if they did, it would largely be just cost shifting from one jurisdiction to another. What's needed is restrictions on who is eligible and limits on what participants get under the NDIS. But that would require tough political decisions. It would likely infuriate the disability lobby, parents particularly, not to mention all the businesses now making a very good living off the NDIS as service providers. Because the hardest thing in politics is scaling back or abolishing something once it's created, it's vital that all new programs can be exhaustively examined before they're ever introduced. It's fitting, though, that the person who introduced this overhyped and over-generous scheme, the NDIS, back when he was the Parliamentary Secretary, Bill Shorten, now is the Minister, and he has to wear the blame if it isn't fixed.